Here we are, another episode, people! And we're with Mr. VHS, Ferris.
Hey.
So I've been wanting to have a chat with you for a while and just pick your brains, and obviously VHS has been going for a few years now.
Yeah, 3. This is my third official year.
So. It's the third official year, but I think you mentioned it to me maybe 5 years ago. Maybe. So yeah, I'm just keen to jump in and just talk to somebody that's kind of got himself into the industry and seems to be doing pretty well in my opinion.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll go. Like I say, I feel like it was about a couple of years or a year before it kind of all then came out in the public. You mentioned you had this idea.
Yeah.
So when did it actually?
Probably our summer 2019.
Yeah.
Just before I went off to Europe, I was considering another product, which was, so I did some digging and it cost a lot of money, and I kind of put that on placehold for a time being because I was, without saying what the product was, it was going to cost me close to $100,000, and I'd never done anything like that before. So I was like, well, I will do it wrong.
Yeah. So is this something that's maybe lined up in the future?
Yeah. This is
not to tangent off too much.
No, this is something I definitely will do reasonably soon. But yeah, I put it on a massive placeholder just because obviously starting a company is nothing I've done. I'm just an electrician.
Yeah.
Bike bum. Like, I don't know how to start a company. So, and it wasn't until I went to Europe, I basically was doing slapper tape again on my bike, and then it just kind of hit me that, so it's hard VHS. And I think it's because I'd already considered doing a company. So because I'd already considered doing it and already done sort of the mental groundwork, when something came to me, it seemed it just sort of, I don't know, clicked into place, and I persevered with it, and I don't know, here we are.
So before that, I guess to dig into Ferris as well, you've been in the mountain bike scene forever. When did you start mountain biking?
Pretty late, really. Well, I was 17 when I first moved to New Zealand. I was always liked bikes, but I didn't know downhill existed. And a friend of mine let me borrow a bike one day, and that was it. Basically, from that day
what
onwards.
year is that?
2007.
2007. So.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything. I was like a baby into it. Didn't know who Sam Hill was. Nothing. And then it was full on from there. Watching all the old movies. I was hooked. Still am, really, but yeah.
And then you've been and did a few years trail building, and then you were working at Skyline the year before me as well.
Yeah.
Beat you to that. But how long were you how long was it until you got into the trail building side of thing and really kind of dug your teeth into the mountain bike? I guess mountain biking was a bit of a career choice.
Yeah.
It was kind of probably a bit casual at the start.
Yeah, I went and studied in Invercargill for a bit and realised it wasn't for me. Not school. It was not school orientated at all, and I hit up Jeff Carter, and I was too young to work for him, and so I waited 6 months, and I emailed him again actually, and I said, and I didn't say I was old enough. I just said, hey, I was too young last time, and just made it quiet that I wasn't of age. And he was like, yep. And I got a job at Enzo Trail Solutions. I was there for maybe 8-9 months, and then went to Canada for maybe a year, and then I went to Canada.
Was that with Enzo Trail?
With Enzo Trail, yeah, which was pretty unreal. I was only 20. I wasn't even 20. Yeah, I was 21, and I was like never really travelled other than when I moved to New Zealand, and yeah, it was pretty surreal. Especially back then, the industry was relatively small, and to get to travel to Canada and build trails for good money and with some good guys and like just experience that was like still to this day probably one of the best things I've ever got to do.
Yeah,
unreal.
So what parts of Canada were you based in while you were there?
So you obviously know the Coast Gravity Bike Park.
Yep.
So basically it's that little town called Seashell, and you got the inlet a couple of hours on a boat. Maybe a couple of hours, I think a couple of hours on a boat. We were staying at some Christian camp. Yeah, we had a Christian camp look after us, and we had like a little floating house off to the side.
Yeah.
We had to keep away from them when they had camps on, because obviously we're like sinful atheists.
Sinful, dirty mountain bikers.
Yeah. But yeah, it was unreal. Then we got like a boat every morning for 10 minutes and climbed up a hill for a couple of hours. Probably, I'd say close to the size of Skyline. Hike a bike up there every day. Yeah. And you get pretty fit pretty quick.
So what were you built? Was it like a bike park that you're building over there, or was it just like a trail network to be...
It's kind of like the Warra Gorge.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warra Gorge, but not public. Obviously the Warra Gorge wasn't public. If anyone doesn't know what that is, obviously it was a private bike park in Nelson for a billionaire and his friends, essentially. And then once he threw in the towel, I think he basically gave the Nelson one to...
it got gifted, I think. It was like to the Crown, I think they call it. And
I think that's what they call it, yeah. But
And then the club was able to take over it.
Yeah, when I left Nelson, there was a rumor going around. It might have been true. Maybe I'm making this up, but someone said that there was more kilometers of trail at the Warra Gorge than there was in Whistler. This would have been 2012, 2013. So
There was a shit ton of trail there.
yeah,
I've only been there the once. I'm keen to go back.
Yeah, there is another side of the hill which you don't use anymore either, which had quite a lot of trail in it, which are block blasters. So there's more than even what's sort of available to
On the
people
network,
now.
yeah.
So
And then,
it was an interesting couple of years for sure.
so that kind of like got you into the
Leaped
you into the mountain bike side of things a bit more in terms of like getting into the industry and working with people and meeting people
Yeah,
that are like-minded.
yeah. There was a lot of good people in that sport. Even Wynn worked there for a bit.
Yeah.
and obviously Eddie and stuff. But
So you were at the Gorge for a bit as well.
yeah, I was at the Gorge for the
yeah.
start. Yeah, sorry for the first like nearly close to a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I met Wynn, which was quite at the time as a young person who just started sport. It was pretty surreal, but
We're getting attacked by a cat, so if you can
Yeah.
hear a bell like jingling, there's a cat attacking us. Settle down, kitty. So that would have been when Wynn was on. Was it Ancelotti, the Italian bike, or was he on balls by the time he was working
I
at?
think he'd just gone to balls as he left.
So he was kind of like he'd started to do the Win TV on, was it Dirt?
Yeah, because he
He was
broke
doing
his
that for
wrist
Dirt.
just before he went overseas. That's
Yeah.
why he did the Win TV thing like properly.
Yeah.
Because he'd already booked everything. I guess everything was paid for, so he still went. But I think it was like literally like a week before he was meant to leave. Broke his wrist, and I don't know. I don't know the full ins and outs, but
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah, worked out for him. So, but
So you got to meet a few characters on the World Cup scene, and then were you just like, right, this is...
yeah, once Enzo
Did you
Trail
know you
Solutions-
kind of wanted to chase that scene from there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was just hooked on the sport, and then when I moved back to New Zealand, I was a bit lost because
Yeah.
obviously Enzo Trail Solutions was special, incredibly well paid, and yeah, it was like kind of a little bit lost for a while. And then I was like, well, I need to go somewhere with a good bike park. So Queenstown is kind of the only option. So yeah, I got a job there for a year. It was good, but obviously it wasn't Enzo Trail.
Yeah.
Then I went and just did an electrical apprenticeship for a bit, just so I could afford to stay and do things in Queenstown and be here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the seed was planted. Like you said earlier that you always wanted to build a company. Did you say?
I always wanted to be my own boss.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how, when, what, why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you actively looking for a while at what sort of niche you could find in the mountain bike area that you could build
Yeah.
a company around, or?
Yes and no. Hey, I guess it's one of those things that kind of happens organically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had an idea that I had for a long time, which was the one I won't say about yet.
Future.
Yeah, the future,
Yeah.
the future of VHS. But yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. Because once I realised how to sort of initiate building a product and sourcing, and yeah, once I started slowly learning over a couple of months on just frantic googling,
Yeah.
I realised it was still hard, but not as far fetched as you put it in your head. Yeah, and then I just came up with an idea, and I didn't know if it would work necessarily, but I was like keen to put my money into it. I was like, well, at the end of the day, hopefully I'll break even, and if it doesn't work out, then it was a little blip, and
Yeah.
I just keep doing what I'm doing. But I was like, well, I'd rather try it than not try it, and
Yeah.
nothing worse than not doing something and then regretting it.
So just in case there is anyone listening that actually doesn't know what VHS is, it's a slapper tape, but you've got little rubber bubbles on it essentially,
Yeah,
which help suppress the chain slap off your chain stay.
Yeah.
So like to that, what was it that kind of sparked? What did you see that made that like light bulb moment in your head that made you go down that route initially?
I was at Vertigo Bikes, and I was reinstalling my slap. It's like obviously Markov maker.
Was it the Mugov or the Marshguard one?
Yeah, sorry, Marshguard, of course. It's just obviously it's just 3M tape,
Yeah.
rebranded, and so all I did was obviously we all buy this stuff. I kept using it, and depending on how you do it, it can last.
Yeah.
But the way I was doing it didn't, and I was kind of getting sick of replacing all the time. And it doesn't matter how good a job you do, it can look neat, but it doesn't ever look great.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're all spending a couple of hours every time we do this, maybe every 3 or 4 months, spending the same amount of money. So
And that tape's not cheap. That was, what was it, $50 NZ dollars for
yeah, I
that
think they're a
roll?
little bit cheaper now. And if you buy it from like an electrical wholesaler, it's obviously a lot cheaper, but you got to buy like 5 meters.
Well, the 3M stuff was expensive, but you got a lot. But
Yeah.
then the Marshguard, like you say, was like a slightly more refined version to fit bikes, but it was a smaller roll.
Yeah.
for a little bit less than what 3M tape.
Yeah,
costs?
it's only 25mm wide.
Yeah.
And so you normally have to buy 2, or you have to go to, which, you know, that's fair enough. Good on them. Like,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
You can't
but,
blame someone for...
nah, exactly. And but I was just, it doesn't last because it's not designed to take that abuse. It's designed for electrical products.
Yeah.
So I just looked at that and went, well, we all do this. It's a hole in the market as far as I'm concerned. There's not, and bike manufacturers have stepped it up, and they all make slap guard, like decent ones. They've all got, like, Yeti just dropped a new bike with a really good one, but they obviously all do those very hard.
Yeah.
Because it needs to last, in theory, as long as the bike. Whereas mine's more of a consumable, like a tire or whatever.
Yeah.
If you foot rub, it's an issue, but you know, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
That being said, some of them are obviously really good. Some have come with nothing. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought and back then there was no one that was doing really anything other than maybe Specialized. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then, so what was your... Did you... To come up with the design of the little, I guess, the air bubbles on the tape itself, was that something that you just immediately were like,
Yeah.
it's an obvious thing to do, or did you kind of sit down and have a bit of a brainstorm on how you can make this, like the marsh tape, better for people?
What I did is I found a guy who can do CAD stuff pretty comfortably, and I went off and grabbed a couple of rolls of mastic tape, and I basically recreated 4 or 5 designs of what I would think would be good, based on just what I would want to look on my bike. Like, obviously, you've got to play with aesthetics,
Yeah.
and then you've also got to play with the spacing, because everyone says to me, "Oh, it'd be good if they're better spaced."
Yeah.
But the issue of that is if you space them too far apart when you put it on your bike, because it's custom fit, is that you'll actually end up having to cut through or missing parts of your frame.
Yeah.
So it's all to do with spacing, angle. I've got a few changes I'd like to make to it, but for now I think it's pretty good. But yeah, it's just, I made 5 samples and I sent these very semi-okay looking versions to this guy in Auckland, and he catted them up for me, and then from there I decided which one to go for. I was originally going to launch 2 different styles, but the amount of money that required, and then it was like, well, you may as well just make one. Obviously, it's going to work regardless. So, yeah, I mean, I've played with lower profile ideas. I've played with a lot of different designs, but this is the one I went for, basically. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily look the coolest, but I think it looks pretty neat.
Well, like you say, you got to find that middle ground between like performance and aesthetics, and trying to find something
compatibility.
Something that matches. And frames come in so many different shapes and sizes. So
but obviously, when I first launched it, was a 25mm wide hard rubber. My manufacturer, I was hell bent on starting it in Auckland.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So it didn't. I wasn't proud of it when it first came out. I was stoked that I'd done it, but I wasn't happy selling it to people that much. I think I actually ended up replacing nearly, I don't even know the numbers, but I ended up giving away a lot of the second version to customers of the first version, just because it wasn't up to scratch. If you had like quite a square frame, it worked perfectly. But as soon as you had some like intricate shapes, it just didn't hold.
Yeah.
The manufacturer, in my defense, didn't make it to spec. So the bottom of it was too thick, so it would just peel off.
It wouldn't like wrap around.
Yeah, but so I spent maybe another 6 months after that looking for a new manufacturer within New Zealand. But obviously, this isn't a manufacturing country, at least in that sense, and the cost was absurd. So yeah, then I found a manufacturer overseas that kept trying to make the boxes here and pack it themselves.
Yeah,
and obviously that wasn't sustainable either. So now I'm fully in Taiwan, and I ship out of there. But yeah, it's a few changes. Logistics, it's a lot of moving parts, which I didn't quite appreciate.
And you played around with a few different rubbers. Can you talk about, because you wanted to try and do recycled rubber? Is that something you want to try and still chase?
I'd like to in future.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it's tricky. If you're like a big company and you've got a lot of money behind you, and you can send people overseas and you can legitimately test a lot of products, it's possible. But I do find it's not the easiest thing to do. And then you've also got to
just
chase
sourcing it. Is it easy to like? Because the only brand I think ODI do a set of grips, but it's like only one of their grips I think is actually recycled rubber.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think I can't remember what the brand's called, but I've noticed it once. Because I might be wrong actually, but I'm pretty sure ODI might have like one of their styles. But I guess did you play at all? Is it like the quality of rubber you get back kind of questionable as well? Is that?
Yeah, so when I was trying to do recycled rubber, that's when I was trying to do it all in New Zealand. and so I haven't actually really looked. To be honest, I haven't really looked into it much since. We were using rubber, and the problem with recycles is it's normally grainy, and you can't get the exact mold, and then it'll probably tear up quite easily with a chain rubbing over it all the time, which is another issue. There's probably a way. There's definitely a way to do it. I just haven't ventured that far down the rabbit hole yet. Especially when you're dealing with manufacturers in China or Taiwan, even if they're good, it's quite difficult to get that initial, unless you can source it for them.
Yeah,
they're not really that interested.
Well, I imagine they got so many orders coming from every direction.
Exactly. So, I mean, at least I got a pretty reputable manufacturer already within the industry. So it's they're I won't say the name of the company, but they're not shy in producing mountain bike products as it is. So they're really good.
Yeah.
But they put me onto silicon. They suggested it, and I was like, well, that's not a bad shout. And obviously, silicon's UV resistant. It lasts longer. I haven't had a single one, unless your frame is always rubbing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one tear up yet.
On
the chain. So they're just a lot more durable. Obviously, all our food containers made out of silicon, so it's just hard to get an adhesive stick to it. So yeah, there's always a counter.
Yeah.
So
like, what if you fix one problem?
Yeah.
And it brings up another.
You can't. Yeah, I'm getting there. I've found I'm testing a few different adhesives at the moment to try and mitigate some of the foot rub. People call it delamination, but it's just foot rub. But I'm always trying to improve it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you rub your foot, people rub through cranks, pain it.
And is it just you kind of chasing all this, or do you have anyone else that does help you with this kind of stuff?
Last year, I took on a business partner. He works for Ibis Bikes, head of sales, and he used to work for Santa Cruz, and he's done a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. But he's more my pricing, logistics. He's more of a businessman side of it.
Yeah.
Numbers game. I don't. When we launch a new product or change a new product or talk to distributors, he's the person who prices it up, because that's where I'm a little bit too generous.
Yeah.
Or I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because when starting a company, when you ask, the first time you send someone an invoice for X amount,
you kind of just like putting a figure in the air sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, you sort of know, but you also, it's quite, even though you know what the product's worth and what it costs you and what you should get out of it, it's quite daunting sending someone, when you first start, sending someone an email, it's like, yeah, you owe me a considerable amount of money for something you almost feel like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like you've made something, but you don't necessarily believe it's worth.
Yeah.
You know it is, but.
Or like on paper,
yeah,
it's all worth this, but in reality, kind of what?
Yeah, once you send it off, you're like, oh man, it takes a while to get used to that.
Yeah.
But it's just business. But yeah, I mean, as an electrician, you go there and you charge whatever thousands to do a certain job. It's the same thing, but it takes a while to get used to that, I think, because your name's behind it, your company's behind it, and you're telling someone that your company and your product's worth X amount. It's a big thing to get over. I think probably the hardest thing in the industry for me personally. Everything else is easy, but when you actually have to get your money, it's funny. I think that's my biggest hold up is I don't like to send invoices. Yeah. Even though, I know it's weird, right?
Sure, people receiving them don't mind not receiving them as well.
Yeah. I obviously I still do it, but it's funny. Like, you'll have a month where you're low in cash. You're like, well, I should probably invoice those people.
Yeah. That time again.
Yeah,
that time of the month.
But and no one ever bats an eyelid, and it's always fine, because of course it is.
Yeah.
Because they're making.
Because that's what you've told them it's going to be anyway.
Yeah, and then they make double off it as well. You know, everyone makes money. That's the whole point. But yeah, it's just I'm getting used to it.
Cheeky. I'm like, I always. Very different example, but even when you're just like asking a friend for cash that you've bought a curry for or something, I'm like, oh, you don't mind paying me that $20 for the curry I bought the other night? No, yeah, of course. But I'm always like, I feel like asking for money. I'm definitely one of those guys as well. It's always a bit shy to. Yeah. I don't know, just something about
it's weird to feel.
Cash is always a bit.
You shouldn't feel guilty for asking for money, especially if you paid for it. But it's I know what you mean.
But I guess again, in your scenario, you're talking a lot more than a $20 curry. So
yeah, sometimes
it's a bit harder. And then in terms of breaking onto the scene, from where I was sitting as well, I felt like we went from, because you actually told me we were clearing trails for a local race over at Remarks. That's when you actually told me you had this idea, and I was like, just to keep it kind of low key. And then the next thing I heard about VHS was, to me, it felt like it was everywhere, because you were looking at the bikes for World Cups, and I saw the VHS table on quite a lot of the teams already, and considering I hadn't heard much in the lead up to that, to see it jump onto the scene, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So what were your steps there? Again, like, it must be hard to, you've got this belief in the product, but to get World Cup teams as well, who are very probably picky about what products they put on their bikes. That like how did you find that process?
That was probably one of the. It was very. Yeah, I don't. I know the answer. I'll say it. But man, I wouldn't say it was easy because that's not the right word. But no, how do I phrase this? I don't know. I guess I was lucky because I launched first week into lockdown, so everyone was on their phones and Instagram anyway. Everyone's a bit like, and then I launched the product on April 1st. That was kind of a bit of a mistake.
Yeah,
because we thought we'd get swallowed by April Fools, but luckily. I say luckily. The reason was there was nothing on April 1st on Pink Bike. I assume because companies pulled their videos because of April 1st and it was a serious time.
Yeah.
And I looked a video with Eddie. Massive shout out to him for that.
Yeah. Your videos have all been quite funny.
I try leading into it because at the end of the day, I don't want to be serious.
Yeah.
I'm not I take my company seriously, but I don't want to be serious. I'm not a serious person.
Yeah.
At least I don't think I am, until it matters. But yeah, I like to keep things fun. And yeah, Eddie. So basically, Eddie got in this video, didn't really ask anything for it. It just helped me out, which again, massive respect for him for that. Launched the video. Within a couple of hours, obviously Eddie's friends who race World Cups like Brooke and Sam, they're all sharing it. It was blew up pretty quick, pretty fast just from that. Obviously, everyone's stuck at home. Then Reese Wilson messaged me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he sent me a very positive first message.
Had he just signed to Trek, or was because he was on?
Yeah, I think he had maybe just signed, or maybe it was his second year. But he messaged me
because he'd gone private. Was he? Because he was private here on like a Commensal Supreme.
Commensal 100, I think. That's what it is. That's what it was recently.
And then went to Trek.
Yeah, it might have been his second year of Trek. I can't remember, but yeah, it was just into lockdown, so everyone's talking to me and everyone's stoked on it. So I was just like, all right, I think probably 30-40% of my product. Because I didn't make them huge. My first batch was only 300.
Yeah.
And obviously the initial plan was to go to Lords and hand it to World Cup riders there in person.
Yeah.
But obviously we went to lockdown. I sat at home. Everything seemed a bit bleak. Like it wasn't going to take off. So launched the video. It was meant to be like 4 more riders. So that didn't happen either. So I was like, oh, we've got what we've got. And just launched it. And I spent quite a bit of money, but in great scheme of things, nothing that would be, like life destroying.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a kick in the teeth, but you'd
just be like, oh well, it was fun, and yeah, basically just power Instagram. I didn't even really run ads or anything. It was just a video on Pink Bike and then people sharing it because there's no mountain bike news.
Yeah.
So in terms of it, just lined it up perfectly. Like shout out to COVID, I guess.
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably the most positive thing, and then that gave me a year to kind of sort my processes out because it did better than I thought. So that gave me a year to find about a year and a bit to find a new manufacturer and get to where I am now, really. But in that time, there was no World Cup racing. I think that whole season got cancelled.
They came in at the end, and that's when Matt Walker won.
Yeah. Okay. So
they had it was 4 or 5. It was only a few rounds, and they were doing double headers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So basically, in that time, more and more people were seeing the product. I was sending it to more and more pros. I think nearly everyone hit me up.
Yeah.
Obviously, being from a place like Queenstown now, you kind of know a few of them anyway, so you kind of can reach out.
Yeah.
I've never given any obligation to any of the riders to post. Nothing. I just said, like, you want product? And they say yes. Sometimes they come to me. And for racing World Cups, it's like, yeah, of course you can have it.
Yeah.
One of my first purchases was actually through Emmeline Seegan-Tyler.
Yeah. And
she bought it, and I messaged her instantly. I was like, you're not buying any more tape. Like, just take it. She's really nice and was very, very supportive of the brand and was always posted about it. So a lot of riders are very good for that, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see like the community is very good in that way. And,
yeah.
But yeah, I've never said to them, post. Never said, because why should I? They're advertising my product for free, essentially. But,
well, and then people are so hawk-eyed in the game. Like me and you are pretty like, I think into it quite a lot. And I know when the Pink Bike like Pit Spits or whatever it's called comes up.
Yeah.
I'm not super nerdy in terms of knowing angles, but I'm definitely quite nerdy in looking at what components people run and how they run it. So little things like the VHS tape on bikes I'll pick up on that sort of stuff. I find that like very interesting to see what.
Yeah, well,
like, especially in teams when people may use. It doesn't happen. It happens less now, but like an easy example is going back. I think Greg and I used to use that gamut chain device in Santa Cruz when everyone else had like an E13 or an MRP.
Oh yeah,
like little things like that.
maybe a little bit before my time
That was,
in terms of...
I can't remember what year that was, but I remember I found it interesting within teams when there was different components used by different athletes and why they do that. And
Yeah, well, it's like rev grips.
Yeah.
You know, Reece Wilson was a huge advocate of that, and because of that, you're like, oh, what? And you start looking, and you realise, and you see it. They'll rebrand a rev grip to look like a different brand to not annoy sponsors, but you look for it.
Yeah.
If you care about bikes.
It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Yeah.
I think working at the bike park and seeing so many bikes come through, you get very familiar with components as well.
Yeah.
So then from like a mile away, I could spot. I can't remember what brand it was, but I was looking at some bikes on a website the other day, and I noticed that the caliper, just immediately, the caliper was like a SRAM caliper, but they had a Shimano lever. Yeah. And I could tell because Shimano's got that like kind of barrel on top.
Yeah.
And I could see that, and I was like, huh.
Yeah,
and
right.
I noticed like it kind of been photoshopped together somehow, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't photo, or maybe I don't know. I remember just seeing like that, and it's the same when you look at pros bikes on like those pink things. So going back to the VHS, started to see it on a lot of bikes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few pros that have bought it or run it without my knowledge too, and then you see it on Vital or you see it on their Instagram. You're like, what? That's like Nico Mullally was running it a whole bunch with all his
prototype bikes.
Yeah, that's right name. I always get him and Dakota mixed up for some reason, but yeah, and so I reached out to him as well, met him in Leger, and he's meant to be coming out soon. At least he said that, but yeah, he was another obviously nice guy in the scene, and it was quite humbling to know that someone like that was literally physically purchasing my product. Yeah, it didn't even hit me up for free stuff, and I think that goes a long way as well. Like when pros just buy stuff, and then you get kids messaging you for free stuff. It's like, man, even the pros buy it. Like, yeah. Not there's nothing wrong with people messaging me for free stuff. I appreciate it.
Done it yourself, probably at some point.
Everyone's done it, you know. But I think it's a way to do it. But yeah. But it's quite nice to know there's pros out there who don't just throw their weight around in terms of, and fair play to if they do, because that's what they've earned. But it's quite nice when you look at your order history and you're like, whoa, I don't know, it's cool.
No, I agree there. I think it gives like,
respect.
It gives respect, and like you say, for you, it makes you feel like that person's purchasing the product because it's actually a good product, not just because they can get it for free.
Yeah. It makes for sure. That's actually perfectly said. Really.
And you do actually work. So going from the individuals, you do actually work with a couple of teams. So are you working with Trek? 'Cause I've seen it on their bikes. Or
no, nothing
is that
officially.
through the riders?
That's through riders. Huh. I think I don't even think Trek necessarily want it on their bikes.
Oh yeah.
'Cause, you see a few like when they get new custom paint jobs, is their initial photos. There's no VHS.
Yeah.
And then when they start racing, then there's VHS. So there's a few things like that. Because obviously, I heard that Trek put a bit of time into creating their current OEM version.
Yeah.
So they don't want to be seen as not having done a good job.
Yeah, that's
essentially.
fair.
And I think that it's pretty common across most brands, which is again fair enough completely.
But to your point earlier, if you see your product as more of a consumable, like
it is
not like it's a consumable product and it's there to do a job, but that job, it's designed in a way that inevitably it's going to wear out. Whereas like they want their chainstay to last as long as till the end of time.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, say Tracker, they're advertising their bikes through World Cups. So if they advertise their bikes or something that's doesn't come with their bike, and there's nothing they can really do about that. It's not the best look for them, I guess. But they've not said anything. They're not that. Yeah, I think every company's all good as long as they get enough photos with or without.
Yeah,
no drama at all. Some teams are obviously like you have to officially sponsor, but it's like Cam Cole did me a solid and printed me all over the GT tents, and they're running for ages on their prototypes.
Yep.
No obligation, but you put the logo on the side of a pit up there with Steve Pete and all those guys, and you're like, what? And I probably shouldn't say too much, but they're all paying for it, and they're just doing me a solid. It's just it's like I don't forget that stuff.
Yeah.
And when the company's bigger, I'd like to think I could be able to return that with payment.
Yeah.
But until I'm paying myself consistently, I don't know how long. But maybe when the new product comes out and I finally figure out some logistics, because that's a whole thing in itself, which I think I'm fine on top of. And you'll see some bigger things, hopefully. Yeah.
So what teams are you? So you're not officially working with GTUSA?
No, but I think it's just like a mutual agreement between everyone. Like so like Banshee Cycles, who are now, I think they're another common style team actually.
Oh yeah.
But they print my logo. There's a few teams out there who will run the logo.
Yeah.
Matteo Inguez was being one of the first kids I sponsored on the World Cup scene before, I already knew who he was. He ran the logo. Yeah, it's cool. There's not many. I guess the only maybe official one is probably Couscous's team for NS.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just nothing official.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's in quite a few tents.
Yeah, I don't say you have to print a logo. I don't do any of that stuff. I just give them product, and whatever they want to do for me in return is already enough.
Yeah,
like running it's enough.
Yeah,
but if they want to do more, then that's math, and that's
I'm not going to say no.
No, exactly, and it's I can't thank them enough. Really, they're helping me. So yeah, I mean, I might give them like $400 or $500 worth of product, but that's not really that much.
Yeah,
Well,
you start somewhere.
Exactly.
To be supported.
Yeah. So no, I just dish it out. The pro hits me up once. It's not even a question. Like,
I think that speaks volumes about the product though as well.
Yeah.
For it to be used naturally rather than forced upon her.
Yeah, I don't want to force anything on anyone. Like, why would you? I don't know. Yeah.
But speaking of teams, in the old Instagram world, I've seen, is it NTV?
Yeah.
NTV is popping up.
Yeah.
So what's, and this is I don't want to say a product of VHS, but it's what is it? Tell me.
Another thing I've been wanting to do, probably even since before as a product, is, I mean, I think everyone has this idea, is imagine, like, you're not fast enough to race World Cups. Well, at least I wasn't. But you want to be part of the scene, and I guess before you start thinking about products, it's like, well, how else can you get into it? So it's another one of those, how do I get into the scene things.
Yeah.
And I guess in my head, maybe at the time, unrealistically, it was, can I do a World Cup team?
Yeah.
Not saying this is the World Cup team at all.
Yeah.
But I think it wasn't, I just forgot his name, it's got to slip my mind, but there's a guy who used to do a Norco team in New Zealand, nationals team.
I'm not sure, but they have similar things in the UK.
I think it might have just ended when you came here, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did it. He had a pretty cool team going for ages, and I don't know, took a bit of inspiration from that. I was like, I'd like to do that one day.
Yeah. So it's more of a development program team than a
for now
fully fledged.
Yeah. So basically, I just got a bunch of quick Queenstown people, and some people who are just stylies to help push the team media wise, and just start a nationals team. Basically, I was lucky enough for Bro Bike has got the contract to do the only independent nuke-proof dealer in New Zealand.
Yeah. And
I was sitting there a bit late in the season to organise it, but I hit him up and I was like, should we do a nuke-proof team? Basically, is what it was. I was like, I'll run it, I'll do everything, I'll pay for everything. You'll get obviously advertising through the fact that you're the only nuke-proof dealer, and he was all about it.
Yeah.
One thing led to another. Managed to secure a bunch of riders. They're all keen because obviously the price we can get bikes is absurd.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, I pulled a bunch of other sponsors together, which again I can't believe. So this late in the season, some of the brands that jumped on board who are keen on it is pretty unreal too.
Yeah, because I guess the real vision's maybe looking to the next New Zealand season then.
Yeah, realistically speaking, I think, to be honest, we'll only get everything in time for Wakatupa World Champs.
Yeah,
which if anyone
that's
doesn't
the most important race of the year. So that's not really bad timing.
It's my favorite race of the year. So yeah, hopefully we have everything by then. We'll have a big launch video. I think all of them are for overseas race World Cups, and then when they get back, maybe we'll sort them some fresh bikes, and then really lean into it. See how everything goes with the new Crankworks rules, the new UCI rules, and how everything's, depending on what I want to invest into and how much money I make over the season. And if I feel like I'm itching and I feel like I can make something work of it, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'd like to think I can do a proper development team and take it overseas.
Yeah.
Whether who's on that team, how I run it is undecided. If it's a buy-in like Steve Pete's Syndicate back in the day, or which you're obviously part of, or if I do it more of a somewhere in between. Yeah. It all depends on sponsors and how much money I've got, basically. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to help. Really, it's kind of my.
Yeah, I think it was, probably is a dream of a lot of people, but the reality of setting it up and the financial cost, it's just not.
There's no real benefit to it other than helping other people. Like I've already spent, I don't even want to say, but it's a lot of money, and there's a lot more money to spend, and I'm not gonna make that back from selling tape.
Yeah,
it's not
a passion project.
Yeah, whereas like a shop, which is like no disrespect to any shops, I get it's a lot of time. There's a lot of time, I've noticed, I've always been surprised that a shop doesn't do one in New Zealand.
Yeah,
I know that they are ones that do it, but they're always. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd happily, if I had the money or the insides, I'd buy the bikes.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'd like to think I will be one day, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit too generous.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to sponsorship, I feel like you should be looking after the athlete like as best you can.
Yeah.
And I know companies do, but maybe I'm a bit more. I don't know. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit on anyone. It's just.
No. Well, you get it. You're not talking about. There's definitely both sides to the coin.
For sure.
And like you say, you're not trying to tarnish everyone with the same brush, but
yeah,
you see, even if you talk to some professionals or some whatever, you hear is definitely mixed reviews on how they feel like the team.
Yeah, some
their
definitely
team
aren't
is.
treated how you'd expect them to be treated.
Yeah.
And you hear things and you're like, what? That, like at the end of the day, yeah, you get this amazing deal through X company or X team, but they've picked you because you're the product at the end of the day.
Yeah.
At least for a team, especially a World Cup team. Obviously, the bike's a product, but if you've got no fast riders, you don't look after them. Why should they stick around?
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do I know? I don't have a team. So.
Well, I guess not yet.
Not yet. I mean, I'd like to, but yeah, we'll see. Obviously, I can't imagine how much it's going to cost to go overseas with it.
Yeah.
So I've got an idea, but yeah, it's a bit daunting, I think.
But with the team in mind as well, it's like even though it's very startup at the moment, kind of small key. What's kind of the thing that attracts? What riders are kind of catching your eye? What sort of thing is moving forward to anyone listening to this? That might not be at that level, and who knows how this might grow, but as something for them to aspire to get involved with. What would you want to see from somebody to consider have them on your team, whether it's at a development level, national level that we're doing now, or that could potentially then grow to something that's an international
I think
team.
Commitment, right? There's obviously a lot of fast kids. There's a few that I head up that are obviously sponsored already, who may or may not join next year, depending on how they perceive the team. There was one kid from Christchurch who's very fast. I won't say his name, but you probably know who he is. But yeah, he's got a good deal with another team already. Maybe next year, once they've seen what we do, we can convince them to join.
Yeah.
But he's so fast. But
it's the hard thing, I guess.
It's not all about results.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids who are very quick, but that's to say they just they're not putting the time in, or they care more about some other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Don't just hit me up on Instagram though and go, yo, do you have a sponsorship deal?
Yeah.
Put a bit more effort into it. But yeah, do
you know what I'd like to see? Well, I'm sure people do it, and I guess people do it naturally through Instagram a bit. But like a sponsor me tape. Like, do people ever? I've never seen I think there's a few riders done it, but
you
not
did
many.
something like that, didn't you?
No,
that was a Steve Peak missed.
I've done the odd fun video because it's
yeah.
But an actual for somebody that actually wants to get sponsored that doesn't have any sponsors yet, making a specific tape.
Yeah,
what skaters do,
yeah.
Like a sponsor me edit kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, filming's a difficult one, I think.
Yeah.
But we all kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've made edits in it before, even though I'm slow. But because it's fun. I like the process of it. It was nothing to do with me being like, oh, look at me, look how fast I am, because I know I'm not fast.
Yeah.
But I just enjoy. Maybe I enjoy the media a bit more. But yeah, you're right. They should. I think if you really genuinely want to go places, you should invest in yourself.
Yeah,
because it's all about branding.
Well, especially now, I think the dynamic of who gets sponsored now, I think, has changed massively since Instagram comes out. Because at the end of the day, what's the point? What's the point of a company sponsoring someone? Is to get exposure for their product.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's almost like a marketing exercise.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the downhill teams, there's a kind of funny dynamic there because they're almost they're an R&D department almost.
Yeah.
When you're talking those top level athletes, but at the same time, they're then racing that bike to sell it. But again, is that bike, when you see a bike do well on the World Cup circuit, is that necessarily selling the downhill bike, or is that just promoting that brand to then even just sell trail bikes? If you see a let's say Nuke Proof, because you've got Nuke Proof. You see Nuke Proof doing really good on the downhill circuit, but you're like, I actually don't want a downhill bike, I want a trail bike. You're probably just going to look at Nuke Proof trail bikes because you see how good the downhill bike performs.
Yeah,
so it's and then with Instagram now, the only way for companies to get their bikes recognized was through race results on the World Cup circuit, because that was kind of or through the odd DVD. But to get on a DVD, you normally have to be a pretty good rider.
Yeah.
Recognised again through race results. Whereas because of Instagram, anyone that does a good edit can just get recognised through the internet.
Yeah, well, this is it. So, like, people like Sam Dale and all those guys from back in the day, you know about those guys because they've been in the scene forever, obviously, and obviously good riders. But they've all been on there was very limited media when we started.
Yeah.
There was the only the odd movie. So, like, if you got onto that movie, you blew up.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you had to earn to be to that point, but now you can... Yeah, there's a lot of guys that you can do. I can go film and edit with anyone tomorrow on my iPhone. And as long as you know how to use a phone and how to cut, you can do something pretty sick without any sponsors, not even a decent bike. Like, and you see it all the time. Like, damn, Booker blows up all the time with his little clips. Like, obviously he's part of the team now, but you know, that's how that's a huge marketing tool.
Yeah.
Like, even him doing that manual for those gates the other day.
Yeah, it was.
Those get shared everywhere, and it's. Of course it does, but...
And if you're getting, like... Unless you're winning in a EWS or downhill bike, that's not getting shared.
No,
you know, maybe by your close group of friends, if you've got a top 20, everyone will be like, wow, that's pretty
yeah,
awesome.
well,
But
unless you get on a podium, if you come sick, that's amazing. But...
It's not going to blow up the internet.
Is New Proof going to, like, put $4,000 into... Well, any brand, are they going to put, like, a bunch of money into promoting that you got 6th place at World Cup? It's like, maybe, but... People care about the top podiums, like, and that's and ultimately what does sell product and sells bikes, and you know, you can see it, but
and then but now with again going to the social media path, it's like if you're getting recognised through that, and that bike's being seen doing whatever, that's going to just put that little bit in somebody's head of that bike must be a good bike because he's riding it and doing cool shit on
when
Instagram.
you see something sick on a good bike, it does make you want to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, we all do it. Like, there might be a bike you don't think you'd ever buy, and then you see something amazing. Well, we were saying before with the old Gambler.
Yeah.
I didn't like the bike at all
until Brendog got on it for me. Yeah.
Yeah. When he did that movie, and he sort of saw what it looked like, I grew on me.
Yeah.
Whereas before I wouldn't have touched it with a barge pole. I thought the thing was ugly. But it's funny how if it's presented to you in a different way, how you see things in a different light, and you know that it's all marketing, but it works. Like, and I think riders have got to do it to themselves as well. Like, obviously it's hard to grow on Instagram, you know, especially as another mountain bike guy. You know? But it's important to have good content on Instagram, because if a kid messages me and says, even just for VHS, like, do you do sponsorship, blah blah, I'll always look at the profile, even if the message is kind of rude. Just to see what they're about, and if they're not really posting anything or putting much effort into their own Instagram, it's like I think that says a lot. Yeah. Whereas like Malik puts a lot of effort into his Instagram, not a ton, but everything he posts is him ripping.
Good quality, yeah.
Yeah, so you know he rips. You don't even need to look at his results, because at the end of the day, when someone messages you, unless they give you their results, you don't go on to some Facebook page for the New Zealand Nationals and try and dig for results.
Yeah, it's not your job to kind of dig through it. That's for a rider. If they really want the sponsorship, they should do that.
But you look at their reels and their Instagram posts, and you're like, this guy is actually he's not fucking about. He's quick, and I think that says a lot. If you don't do that, it's not necessarily the end of the world, but I think it's important. Yeah. So I don't know.
I have to say, I'm like personally not a huge Instagram kind of guy, and I think it's a shame at how much it has become like a business tool for, you know, like teenagers and stuff to try and and how people are struggling so much with it in terms of like they'll get themselves off social media to almost have a break, and I'm like, dude, you should be posting. I actually want to make, and I've been failing so far, so I want to make a conscious effort to actually post more on Instagram, because one of the biggest things is, especially for, I guess in my situation, I live in New Zealand, but all my family's back in the UK. Yeah. And if I don't post anything on social media, none of them get to see what I do. Yeah, you do a lot, man. Like, I do a lot of stuff. So I put a lot on my story, but that disappears after 24 hours. So if they're not so I do actually think it's a shame that how people judge themselves and put so much effort. And I understand if you're using it to try and get sponsorship, but at the same time, if that post doesn't get 100, I don't know how many likes people want, but like if it doesn't get the amount of likes that they're pleased with, how they feel like a failure and it's like not doing very well. I'm like, mate, you shouldn't. If as long as your parents and your family and the people that love you and care about you see that and like it, and even if they don't, because I don't like everyone's thing, because I don't.
Nah.
I try to because I know it means stuff to people, but as long as people can see that you're doing all right and you're having fun, that's all right.
This is the thing, hey. Like I notice you post something and not that you care. I don't care, but my personal Instagram, I've made it private now. I deleted everyone. I just, like not for any real reason other than just like I spend so much time on Instagram with work.
Yeah.
And like, it just kills your day. So I restricted mine. But yeah, it can be a negative place.
Oh, 100%.
Because you see everyone having fun because everyone only posts the positives.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think posting ghost is pretty important.
I think yeah, and you can't naturally get sucked into it. And I'm also saying I don't think everyone should be on there posting like, well, no, you can do what you want, but you kind of, it would be like if everyone just went on there and had a whinge at how shit the day had been, or it would also be a pretty boring place. It's quite fun because what you see is like you get inspired by a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah,
so it's a funny one, but I feel like people shouldn't be too disheartened if their picture, which they're happy with, gets on there and doesn't get the traction they want. They shouldn't be disappointed as long as their friends see it and their family. Job done. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, this is it as well. Like you were saying before, like, you might not get many likes, and I say you care about that, but then you go down to your shop or you go hang at the bike park and your friends talking about it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, let's say you know they didn't necessarily give it a double tap.
Yeah.
You know they've seen it and you know they're interested. Or you talk to someone like, oh, I heard about this. And you're like, oh, you don't like the NTV thing. Like, oh, everyone's heard about it. I bumped into someone from Rotorua yesterday. I was riding with them and they were talking about it. And I was like, how do you know? And like, you assume because someone doesn't follow you or like your post that they don't know about it.
Yeah.
But everyone really knows about this team. And it's quite, it's like, of course they do, but not everybody wants to click the follow. Like, you just see it. It's just more content. So you don't necessarily make a conscious effort to, I never like posts. Very rarely.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not because I don't like it. It's because I
just sometimes don't think, you know, you're just in that scroll hole and you just
scroll hole. Yeah. That's it. And so I think it's easy to take that stuff personally.
Yeah. Is it like a quick rule of thumb? If I follow you and I haven't liked your post, I've naturally liked it because I'm already following you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
if you don't follow me, well, fuck.
Yeah, that's it. And if I don't follow you, it's because there's lots of people that I don't as well, which I know really well. But again, it just doesn't pop into my head to. It's not a conscious effort to not follow someone. It's just like so. I use it quite a lot in terms of just like scrolling and for like a bit of news, see what's going on. But
we all do. It's
like
addictive, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not like I definitely don't feel like I'm as absorbed as a lot of people. But I reckon it's overall. I think it's good, and I think it's like sad's probably the wrong word. But when I hear people saying like they need to have a bit of downtime or they need to put it down, I feel sorry for them because I feel like they're looking way too much into it than what they need to.
Oh, I've done that.
And
I literally last month I turned my phone on for a week.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of work. It was a lot. It was running a company. I mean, it's like I'm nothing special in that sense. Like a lot of people run companies. I think, but because mine's so online, you spend a lot of time looking at your phone, and then I was like, nah, I'm gonna run my bike for a week. Turn my phone on for a week. Honestly, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And that's not just social media. That's life. But it does come from a negative place when you do that. It's not, you're not happy.
Yeah.
But it's normal, I think. But you got to look at Instagram differently. Yeah. But you're right. It's hard to, if you care, it can be difficult.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, that's what made me realize. Actually, I realized I was following a lot of companies. Well, again, like I follow VHS, but I kind of care because I know you. But I was following a whole heap of companies that I don't know the owner of. And all they're essentially trying to do is sell you shit on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell, all I'm doing is like, when you have ads up on YouTube, I can't wait to skip the ads.
Yeah.
But then you go on your Instagram and it's essentially you've followed fucking 1,000 adverts.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, you follow a professional rider, some of almost all their content is essentially an advert as well. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all I feel like I'm doing is scrolling through this fucking list of adverts and shit that I don't want to buy.
No.
So then I had that. I was like, all right, I'm not deleting it because I like it for communication, or whatever. But I'll chill. And that's when I realized I was like, for one, that classic well, if you don't like it, stop following it.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
like
I
the
mean,
most like obvious
good rule
thing.
of thumb that.
So I went on and I actually with them specific. Because there's lots of brands. Even if I don't know the owner, I actually do like their ethos and just what they try to do. So I think that's, keep on that. And then again, professional riders. I love mountain biking, and that's what you follow.
Yeah.
So then again, at the end of the day, it's their job to sell you some.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Their brands they ride for. So you can't have one without the other. But going back to what made me realise is I need to stay is I think it might have been my mum or auntie or somebody had made a comment of like, are you doing all right? Because I just haven't seen you post on social media in a while. I was like, yeah, I'm sweet. Yeah. I'm doing even better because I've not been on that for a while. And they're like, oh, it's good to know. I just don't. Obviously, we don't hear anything from you.
Yeah.
Unless you're posting something as an update. So I was like, all right, it's actually important just to check in, even if it's like
especially grandparents though, because they use it, but they don't know how to use it. I think.
Yeah. Well, they just do it to check in on you.
Yeah.
My mum only downloaded Instagram and made an account, I think, to follow what I did once I was overseas because I was using it more than Facebook.
Yeah.
And so now I link both accounts, so whoever's family. So yeah.
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. It's
That's a bit of a tangent, but
no. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an important tool for. It's weird how much. It's weird to think that at the end of the day, Instagram's just a company.
Yeah.
And everyone has to use this. You don't have to, but it's almost like you're not part of the world unless you're on Instagram.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of absurd to think one company
kind of
has that control over you. Yeah. It's not to get conspiratorial over it or anything, but yeah, it is wild.
Yeah.
How much social media is part of everything we do.
Oh, it's so real.
Like,
yeah. It's so real these days.
But I don't know.
But no, I think overall it's a good thing. Lots of people keep saying, oh, like, again, you listen to podcasts and like, oh, but like, I've been like, I need to try and cut down on Instagram. I'm like, well, not necessarily. You need to just change your perception of Instagram. I think that's my advice to people, because it is real. It's not a fake. Like, might be a bit of a front, or like your people are only posting good things.
Yeah.
But you don't want to look at it and look at 1,000 posts that make you depressed.
Nah.
Which I know kind of like is what's happening when people are comparing their life to all these amazing stuff. But just have a scroll back through your own profile and just look at how much amazing stuff you do yourself. I think is.
Oh yeah,
and then you realise how lucky you are.
If you look back for your own stories,
you
can look at any stories from like years ago. Like, and I'm looking back from my 2019 Europe trip just the other week, and it was like, man, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And like, because when you post stories, it's very in the moment.
Yeah.
That's I think the best part about stories is never really that orchestrated. It's very.
Yeah.
It's just what's happening at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always these real memories as opposed to your posts not necessarily as much real.
Yeah.
They're not fake, but
it's a bit more like
thought out,
yeah.
Because it's permanent. Whereas a story, you just post something funny, like even if it's super dumb.
Yeah.
Like you think it's funny, you post it. It's gone in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like I know I've posted some very stupid shit. Like, but
yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. But yeah, I think social media is great, but it
just
isn't.
Don't let it get to you. It's not. It's also not that important. But.
No. Hashtag. But
so going back to VHS after that little Instagram tangent.
Yeah.
So the future we've obviously there's one thing that we kind of obviously not. It's still in the pipeline and kind of it's gonna come out at some point. Do you know, without digging into it too much, have you got a kind of a time frame in mind of when this new product could be at least talked about, or is it just need to?
No, so I haven't even actually started it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, well, I have I'll occasionally put a couple of hours to mentally designing it, or drawing it out. I've got a brief for it. I'm gonna buy. No, that's one giveaway. I'm gonna buy a 3D printer soon so I can test a few different models and designs. I don't have a manufacturer yet, but I have leads to help me find one. Because it's a little bit more complicated than anything else I've done before. May require an app, maybe not. That's a bit of a giveaway, but maybe I shouldn't have said that. But it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, we've got 10 listeners.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've got more than that. But no, it's but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think by the start of 2024 downhill season, I might have at least a prototype. maybe sooner, maybe later.
Sick.
I don't know. It's not a priority at the moment. The priority is to make sure the tape is easy to get hold of. Finally, we're changing all our logistics from a central point in Hong Kong, which basically was either I eat a massive shipping cost, which is more than the product itself.
Yeah. It seems to be going up at the moment with fuel prices.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of leveling out. But the problem with a small product is if you want something shipped overseas fast, it's like $30. And that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
But when your product's $30 as well, USD, that's a lot.
Doubles, yeah.
Yeah, but so it's... And then you're like, okay, so the other options is $10 and I charge a customer $5.
Yeah.
US, obviously. And so I eat some of the costs, and that's fine. So this is margin, and I'd like the customer to be able to get something cheap. But then the shipping is like a month or two.
Yeah.
And then there's not really a tracking number to it. There's a tracking to when it leaves the facility, so you know it's coming.
Yeah.
But then they don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And then after 3 weeks, they're like, where is it?
And then you see it on a ship sideways in the canal in
Yeah.
Egypt.
Well, and it happens, like, stuff goes missing, but then you can't tell them it's missing, or you can't confirm that it's missing because you don't even know as the business owner where your product is until either arrives or doesn't.
Yeah.
So I kind of have like a 3 to 4 week window. If it's gone further than 4 weeks, I'll normally send another one. But generally speaking, they'll get 2 because they will always arrive. But it's not a good practice. If someone wants something, especially the way it is with Amazon overseas and the way people kind of expect things now, is like that is the standard, and agree with it or not, that's what I've got to as a business match.
Yeah.
So what we've done is, instead of trying to send it from one local spot, which is close to my manufacturer, and spread it, I'm actually bringing back shipping for Australia and New Zealand back to my garage, and I'll do it myself. Yeah, I know, it sounds like a step backwards, but it really isn't, and gives me something to do.
Yeah.
No. But, so if you order within Australia and New Zealand now, you know it's coming from a pretty close place. So you get cheap shipping. I don't eat too much of the cost, and it will be there within 2 weeks, depending on where you are. So it's less within New Zealand, I guess.
Or if they come to Queenstown, they can just go to Brobike and buy it.
Yeah, any shop really.
Any shop.
Yeah, any shop. But it's good if you're overseas, or if you don't know, you can buy it from a local shop, or they're out of stock, you can buy it on there. There'll be a few things on the shop that are exclusive to a shop, like I'll bring back merch. These are the little things I couldn't do with the Hong Kong business. I couldn't have like a shirt. People like the shirts, but I couldn't sell them. Yeah. Like mudguards, stickers. I know it's not much, but it's like there's little extra things to support the company if you like it. Yeah. So we've got a place in the UK, based in, I believe, Scotland. We've got a guy there who's doing all of the UK. My business partner, he's got a distributor company in America, so he'll look after Canada, US. So now when someone goes on the website, they order it, they know they're ordering basically from a reasonably close location, and it will ship and probably be with them within a week, which is, so they don't have to spend money and they get it quick, which has been probably the trickiest thing about all this, especially launching in COVID and trying to ship out in New Zealand. Like I was sending stuff in New Zealand for $15 New Zealand at the time, which it to me isn't expensive, and we're used to waiting long times in New Zealand. Yeah. You order, and anything we order, you're like at least a month. You know, you know, like not necessarily, but generally speaking, you're like this could take a month,
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks to a month. It is what it is. If you want something urgent, well, you should have ordered it earlier. Like this, it's kind of life. But with a small consumable product like that, I guess you do need it quick. And the expectation for everyone else, maybe other than New Zealand, is that it's quick. So it's been a bit of a journey trying to sort that out, but I think we're finally there, and we're talking about getting another one in Europe as well. So lots of different facilities. The customer will never know because it's the same website. They just get geolocated, and so hopefully that will put us in a better position to launch some other little bits that I've got in a pipeline which aren't as secretive.
I was going to say, is there anything else in the pipeline that we can?
Nothing huge, but like some small things. Like we're going to do a collab with a grip company, so I have our own grips. That's in the works. I've got a frame protection collab which will hopefully sort out soon, which my business partner owns part of.
See sneak peek pictures of that somewhere already?
There's one on my trail bike. So I believe that has been posted. No, there's a post on Instagram right now. Actually, there's a bit of a sneak peek. So it doesn't say anything. I mean, you might be able to draw the conclusion. Yeah. It's like I say, it's nothing wild, but it's just something I'm doing. Some other frame protection stuff that isn't wrap. More like shuttle. We've got a shuttle guard. Yeah. nothing. Again, there's nothing groundbreaking, but just like these little extra things.
Yeah.
Still keeping it to the 80s theme. Yeah, I don't want to say too much.
How did the 80s theme become?
Basically, I went into a shop, Vertigo Bikes. I told Ben about the product idea. I think the next day he came back and said, "You should sell it in VHS boxes and call it VHS." So it's kind of him.
Yeah.
His vision may be a bit different to mine because I've always been excited by like, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I've always been excited by like Blade Runner, the OG Blade Runner, and I guess the new one came out, which was a bit of a fanboy for that. But I always like that sort of cyberpunk, old school future sort of vibe. So I've tried to lead my product and my branding into that as opposed to just being another company that does 80s, because 80s is hot right now and 80s is sick. Like, and my team's got like a 90s vibe, which is very much the standard 90s vibe. But yeah, I leant more into the darker side of the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bit more neon, a bit more sci-fi. So it's I don't know how to quite explain it. It's kind of a niche vibe.
You just look at the logo and it pretty much says it all.
Yeah. I like to think I've done that right. But yeah, that basically Ben Hildred kind of put me onto that track at the very, very, very start of my company, before I even put much effort into the actual branding of it.
Yeah.
And I just went from there basically. So shout out to Ben for that one. But yeah, as soon as he said it, I was like, and it just made sense of everything I like to align with and the things that I like. I was like, that is just the idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to say it's Ben Hildred's idea and with my take. But yeah, I think that's kind of it really.
That's it.
But, yeah.
Well, happy days. I think I'm pretty happy with the.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about giving anything else away.
Yeah. Well, we've got to keep some things secret.
Yeah.
Picks for just probably to wrap her up, because we're both downhill fans. Who's your pick? It's hard to say, but for this, who you're watching this year, downhill wise?
I don't know. I think Reece Wilson is on one.
Yeah.
I reckon he'll be on one after like taking almost like a year off. I think he'll be hungry.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's not slow. And based off that, you watched the Flying Scotsman.
Yeah.
You saw how many like just mechanicals he had that kind of ruined his race runs as opposed to the race runs himself being bad. Like, I think he'd be my pick. Yeah. I'm gonna say him.
I think I gotta go with maybe Jackson Goldstone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Comes in first year elite.
I mean, it's happened before with Japrella, so it's not not unreal to think that.
Yeah. Jackson Goldstone. I think he's just been finished up with a hardline win.
Yeah.
Obviously last year taking actually a couple of between him and Jordan Williams. Like
true.
Of the fastest times of the day. I know you could argue different tracks, but if that was true, how comes the guys that qualify first often still win the race?
Exactly, yeah.
So and what Loris Vergier got there? Well, he was it Andorra when Jackson won? He got the first time of the day, or when Jordan? I can't remember exactly because I feel like each of them won. But if that was true, then the first elite male to ride down should have won then. If the track deteriorated that badly. Yeah,
to a degree, for sure.
So,
yeah,
I think he would have won that race, whether he was in his junior category or... I think it maybe dried out a bit more and it's a bit looser, but...
Yeah, at the end of the day,
if the track got that much shit at one of those... All those guys that qualify are so damn good...
Yeah.
That if the track made... Oh, no, it changes a bit, but if it was that big a difference, one of the guys that came down earlier should have technically won if Jackson's not...
Yeah, when you talk to them, it's normally only really... There'll be a particular rut that they've been using and now it isn't there.
Yeah.
But it won't be the whole track.
Yeah.
It'll just be certain lines that they have to adapt to. But they're that fast and they're that good at riding bikes that they can adapt to it. So
yeah, I reckon.
mean, if you win hardline by that amount of time, you're obviously not slow,
Yeah.
So
that's I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pick. I didn't think about that one.
We'll see. But we've still got a couple of months to wait before the first World Cup.
I know.
Cool. Oh, cheers for that.
Nah,
it was good to pick your brains a bit more, and always happy to probably do another one if we just want to talk a bit more shit about downhill.
Yeah, I love downhill.
Rather than dive into VHS too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, cheers.
Cool.